I heard about In the Huddle because Chris Howell gave me a call and said, hey, look, Ed, we need you to be in the huddle.
And what are some of the things or topics that you were most interested in hearing about today?
Men's health and men's finance, because I'm a 60-year-old man, so you know I'm concerned about my health.
I'm 18 years old, so this really helps me become more productive in the future.
Well, I'm looking to walk away with just a lot of insight from the older group of men, because that's what a lot of my young friends don't realize, is that there's a lot of wisdom out there, and we can't just sit around playing dominoes and playing Madden and all that all day. We really have to go out here and make moves. And
we're extremely excited about what took place within the huddle. This is our initial meeting. Looking forward to doing it more often. Certainly the men have been encouraged today. They've been empowered, enlightened, and we just pray that they take this information. It becomes a ripple effect to where they take this information, share with their families, their communities, and really help to really strengthen other men.
I like being in the huddle. I like being around great men, men of influence, men of power, and men who have the passion like me to pass down information to the next generation.
Time and legacy, you know, how you're using your time and understand that you only have a limited value of time to really make an impact in the world. And then legacy, you know, how are you leaving your impact on the world for future generations?
One takeaway for me is that I enjoyed the togetherness that the black men showed here today, something that we don't have in our community too often. So to see this many men come together and share their stories and transparency was a great thing to see.
Well, I'm glad I was a witness. Everybody was excited. The energy kept building and building and building, and with each workshop and with each presentation, people were getting empowered and they were being freed from things that they had never talked about before.
The encouragement that was given to men, empowered through business and through families, and how men can better conduct themselves as they leave from here, go back to their places of home and worship and be able to do what God has called them to do.
It's been mentioned many a time today, iron sharpens iron, so one man sharpens another. I would encourage each man to come out and just rub off on another man just to see what you can benefit from. You may be able to gain access, or you may be able to be a blessing to someone else.
Come to In the Huddle. This was a great opportunity for me to come in here and enjoy and experience men brotherhood.
I'm gonna write you a note.
All right. You are indeed in the huddle. Thank you so much for logging on this evening. My name is Chris Howell, and it gives me great pleasure to host tonight's event. Tonight's event is being hosted by the Chris Howell Communications and the Black ALZ BrainStudy.com organization. It's a great research program that's going on right now to help us as African Americans better understand why 1 in 2 black families are affected by Alzheimer's. So we're going to talk about that tonight as we go throughout our discussion. We'll also play a video for you a little bit later. But tonight I'm joined by a great group of guys, and I'm excited about the conversation we're going to have. We've got 2 men who are already on deck, and later, just a bit later, we're going to be adding some more guys. So you're going to probably see chairs get filled in as we go. But we gave you a commitment that we wanted to start at 7 o'clock. So we wanted to make sure that we held to that commitment to start on time, and we'll try to do our best to end on time. But it's been said that men sometimes don't talk. I will tell you, men do talk. You just have to have something interesting for them to talk about. So these guys may cause us to run over time tonight. But again, I'm excited about tonight's conversation. Let me give you a bio read on both of our guests who are already here with us tonight, and we're going to jump right into it and get things off and running. Our first guest on deck tonight is Dr. Sid O'Bryant. Dr. Sid O'Bryant is the executive director of the Institute for Translational Research, which is dedicated to precision medicine, and Alzheimer's disease, and other neurodegenerative diseases, including Down syndrome, Lewy body disease, Parkinson's disease, traumatic brain injury, and others. The fully transitional lab has a biomarker core. Dr. Hall is the director of it. Clinical core, Dr. Johnson's director there. The administrative core, Dr. O'Brien is the director there, and he's here with us tonight. The lab also has a neuroimaging core. Dr. O'Brien's multiple NIH grants focus on novel strategies for disease detection, screening tutorials, therapeutic prevention, and patient stratification for optimal behavioral treatment response. Now, as part of his work, the lab has a strong focus on the impact of ethnic diversity on cognitive loss during the aging process, and we're going to talk about that tonight. We're talking about specifically men and the aging process. Now, they also run a one-of-a-kind health and aging brain study. Again, we're going to talk a little bit more about the Black ALZ brain study tonight. And again, health disparities, which is most comprehensive studies of Alzheimer's among diverse communities ever conducted. Again, he's running the most comprehensive study of Alzheimer's among diverse communities ever conducted. Again, we're going to talk about that here tonight. Also on deck with us tonight is Mr. Tim Brown. So we're going to get into his bio as well. Tim Brown is one of the greatest wide receivers to ever play in the National Football League and a Dallas native. Did you know that? Tim Brown is a Dallas native. Attended Woodrow Wilson High School in Duncanville. He's a proud member of the 2015 class of the Pro Football Hall of Fame. As Notre Dame's Heisman Trophy winner in 1987, the first wide receiver to ever win the award. Tim was selected 6th overall by the Los Angeles Raiders in the 1988 NFL Draft. He would go on to play 16 seasons for the Raiders, earning 9 Pro Bowl selections and setting numerous team and league records. He was inducted to the Dallas Independent School District Hall of Fame as well as the California Sports Hall of Fame. Since the end of playing his career, Tim has gone on to serve as a television analyst for Fox Sports, NBC, and Sirius XM Satellite Radio. He has devoted his time and efforts to numerous charitable causes, including the 9/11 for Kids, the 911 program for kids, President's Physical Fitness Council, St. Jude Hospital, Ethos Education Group, and various Christian-based organizations like Urban Faith in Chicago. Now, currently, Tim is a college football analyst for ESPN, as well as a co-host on a Dallas CBS affiliate. Upon his retirement, it was important for Tim to continue building his legacy as a businessman off the field. Tim founded a company called Locker 81. Locker 81 services include several industries, fundraising solutions, transportation, and real estate. Tim is the author of The Making of a Man, and his wife is Sharice, and they have 4 children. Again, Dr. O'Brien, Tim Brown, welcome to the show.
Thank you. I noticed my bio was a lot easier to read than
You are absolutely right, man. I think I actually read it earlier, but some of those words kind of tripped me up.
Those were some big words, brother.
I'm sorry.
No, man, you're absolutely
multi-syllable words.
You are absolutely okay.
A bit much.
So as we get into our discussion, I've given your bio. Let's start with you, Dr. O'Brien. Tell them a little bit more about who you are.
So I'm a psychologist by training, neuropsychologist. Grew up in the deep South Louisiana. This is a personal journey for me. I got into this because my grandmother got diagnosed and died of Alzheimer's disease. And so I've really devoted my entire life to trying to figure out how do we do something more about this? How do we, my grandmother deserved more, you know, and all of you out there, your loved ones deserve more, and we can do better. And, you know, the identification and elimination of health disparities is something that I have just been passionate about for a very long time. And so I get to do everything that I care most about.
Yeah. Well, we thank you for doing it because, again, you're leading the charge on the Black ALZ brain study, Black ALZ brain study. Let me slow that down a little bit. Black ALZbrainstudy.com. That's Black Alzheimer's brainstudy.com. Go to their website, check it out, get more information regarding that, and we're going to talk about it more. Tim, I gave him your bio. Tell us a little bit more about who you are.
Hey, yeah. I mean, I think for me, this was very interesting because obviously I played a sport that, you know, the end result could very easily be something of this nature. So when I was asked about this, I was very, very intrigued about coming. And I may do more listening than talking because I want to hear what Doc has to say. But you know, I've done a lot of things since I retired from the game. And I guess I need to update that bio just a little bit. But basically what I'm focused on right now is Locker 81 fundraising solutions, trying to help nonprofits raise funds in a different kind of way. And we started a 81 Logistics Group, which is a fuel transport and supply company. So we're moving fuel for Delta and UPS, and have a deal on the table with AT&T, Allegiant Airlines, and Chevron, and of course the government, DLA, coming up here in a couple months. So that's basically what I'm focused on now, along with all the charitable things you mentioned, 911 for kids, and especially Ethos, which is based here in town.
Absolutely. Well, thank you, Tim, for all that you do, man. Again, being a Dallas native and contributing to the community and the work that you do. Let's get into the conversation, gentlemen. As we kick this off, I want to kind of break this up. A guy who never played sports in my life. Yeah, I know. It leads in the huddle. Never played sports in my life, but I do want to try to break this into four quarters. In a football game, there's 4 quarters, right, Tim?
Yes, sir.
Make sure I get that right. So we'll do it in 4 quarters. In this first quarter, I want to talk about, first of all, how do we take care of ourselves? And how do we indeed make sure that we age well? So, Dr. O'Bryant, starting off with you, I want to come back to the research study, and let's talk about how can men get involved first and foremost with this ALZ brain study you guys are doing?
Well, and I think first and foremost is the website that you mentioned, blackalzbrainstudy.com. Easiest way to find information about the study. You can also just go to the Institute for Translational Research, UNTHSC, and you can find information about it. The first and foremost, the most important thing that I can say is we will never, ever beat this disease if we don't get involved. Yeah. Without the science, there isn't anything. We everyone deserves more, and it's so hard to get men involved in research. Yeah. Yeah. It's for some reason it's I don't want to do that. I'm not a guinea pig, whatever. And there's a lot of good reasons for that. There's a whole lot of really stupid things that happened in the past, but I can't help. My whole life is devoted to helping patients. I can't help if people don't get involved, and so that it's a plea. Please, get involved because that's how we beat it. Yeah.
And I opened it up and we talked about the stat: 1 in 2 black families will indeed have a Alzheimer's diagnosis in the family. Can you talk a little bit about? Let's help us, I guess, kind of frame the conversation. Help us to first of all understand what is Alzheimer's.
Absolutely, and Tim and I were actually talking about this a little bit earlier. African Americans currently suffer the largest burden of Alzheimer's disease in this country, and we don't know why. And so, what is Alzheimer's disease, right? And how is Alzheimer's different from dementia,
Good
right?
question, yeah.
So, dementia is just an umbrella term. All it means is, for some reason, your memory and thinking has changed. It doesn't say why. Alzheimer's disease is simply the most common form of dementia. So dementia is just this big umbrella term, and Alzheimer's is approximately 80% of all dementia cases. But you can have dementia due to traumatic brain injury, due to Down syndrome, due to Lewy bodies, due to Parkinson's. There's so many different ways to have it. And so that's this most simplistic way of getting at it. And Alzheimer's in particular, the reason that it's so devastating is, again, what Tim and I were talking about is it goes in basically attacks the memory. And I'm a psychologist by training, and in my opinion, what do we have that's ours, right? It's us. It's who you are, your sense of you. I mean, I don't want to not know who I am. Right. And that's what Alzheimer's robs. That's what it robbed my family of my grandmother. She the person that I loved for so long was just absent. And so that's what the disease is. It's make no mistake, for those out there who get this misconception that I get it all the time. Well, Doc, I think maybe they're just faking it, or what's wrong with them? Is this all in their head? No, it's a disease. It is a disease of the brain, and it just slowly erodes memories.
I think that I had a buddy, teammate, 54 years old, to pass from a heart attack about 3 weeks ago, about a month ago. Young man, jogging down the court, refereeing a basketball game, and literally falls dead. And because of his heart situation, my thinking was, okay, let's get some doctors together. We're going to get some men who are going to come in. They're going to get tested. They're going to get whatever. And they're going to get. And the doctor I spoke with, she said to me, Tim, I don't mind donating my time, but I don't want to waste my time.
Wow.
Because these men are not going to follow, to Doc's point, these men are not going to get involved. They're not going to follow up with what we tell them. They're not going to go to another doctor, they're not going to do it. And we know that because we've been in the industry for, especially men of color, are not going to do it. And so I felt bad because at the funeral they wanted me to speak, and I wanted to speak about Don, but I need to talk to these brothers who were sitting here in this seat.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, we have to do something different, man. And the only way, sometimes you may get bad news, or you may get some news that's not great. It's like I told him, I went to the doctor, Dr. Wagner. She was like, hey, we got about 95% that's good.
Mm-hmm.
But we got this, we got to deal with.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that's the problem. If I don't know that 5% is there, it becomes 10. It becomes 25.
Correct.
You know, that's the issue that you deal with.
Yeah, so the key to the thing is, I mean, the first thing I heard you say is the fact that you went to the doctor.
Yes.
Yeah, and that's the key. Yeah. The fact that we need to start even scheduling doctor's appointments to make sure that we go to the doctor on a regular basis. That's even another starting point for us.
Absolutely.
But you talked about it a moment ago. You talked about the mistrust that's out there. And again, in some cases, it's legitimate mistrust. But we can't always live in the past.
Exactly.
At some point, we've got to overcome that and understand that things have changed in some cases.
In some cases, absolutely. And you know what? The burden is on me. I'm the doc. I'm the scientist. It's my job to make sure that the community gets the sense of trust, and that when someone comes in, we don't betray that trust.
Mm-hmm.
And anyone wants to look me up, go for it. I've been here since 2012 in this community doing community-based research. That's all we do. And yes, absolutely, some terrible things have happened, and terrible things continue to happen. You know what though? We can change that.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, like if I just sit down and wait for things to change, how effective is that going to be?
Yeah.
I think we are the instruments of change.
You're absolutely right.
That's what we have to say. We're going to do this.
Yeah.
And then we can, because I don't think there's anything we can't.
And I think, you know what, it starts with conversations like we're having here tonight. It really starts with men leading the charge, because
Absolutely.
Guys will do what they see other guys
doing.
Speaking of this circle that we have here tonight, joining us is Everson Walls. Thank you so much for joining us tonight, brother. Doing great, man. We're glad to have you here. And let me give you a little bit of Everson's bio as he's joined us here tonight. Everson Walls grew up in Hamilton Park here in Dallas, Texas. Now, Wall became a starter at Berkner High School, where he played football for 1 year in his senior year.
In the playoffs.
And led the division. He led the division in interceptions. Walls was offered and accepted a football scholarship to Grambling State. Walls gives credit to legendary coach Eddie Robinson for helping him to mature as a human being. Among Walls' list of accomplishments while at Grambling State, he was selected for the Kodak 1AA All-American team, the Black College All-American team, and during his college senior year, he led the nation in interceptions. In 2006, Walls made the decision to donate his kidney to his former teammate Ron Springs. That friendship was chronicled in a book written by Walls called A Gift for Ron. Walls is a dedicated husband, married to, give me your wife's name, is it Sherelle? Sherelle Walls, and is the devoted father. Yeah, I'm looking at it here, I'm like, wait a minute. Tim, there goes another one of those words on me, huh?
Parents from Louisiana, man, that's how it goes.
And he's the father of two, Cameron Walls and Cherise Sherelle Walls.
Sherelle Walls.
All right, good deal. Well, Everson, welcome to the show. That's your bio. Tell them a little bit about who you are as we get into the conversation with you.
I'm just a young man from, like you said, from Hamilton Park. Just a guy that grew up under, no tougher circumstances than anyone else, but no better. Yeah. Tim and I, we're part of the same foundation called Ethos Education Group.
Yeah.
And I've heard Tim's story many times. He's heard mine many times. And, I was kind of inspired by it because, I thought that just going through a divorce and going to the juvenile for a couple of days, was tough on me. But, as Tim tells his story, it's just kind of tough growing up, when you and your dad are not as close as they need to be, and having to go through that journey of connecting again. I thought that was pretty powerful. My father and I, my parents divorced, and my mom, always amazing. Just, she always did what she could to make sure we didn't miss anything. And of course, my dad left. He just left her. He didn't leave us.
Yeah.
So that was a good thing. He stuck around, come pick me up for church. He always picked me up for practice in any sports that I was playing. So I was a product of a young man. I was a product of a family that refused to let life get in the way of us developing as human beings.
Good stuff. Good stuff. All right. Well, thank you. We really appreciate you being here tonight. So, Tim, I want to come back to you. You know, one of the things that I believe is important as we talk about men and how we age well. Looking at you, you certainly have aged well. Discipline has to
say, Chris. I mean, should I say I'm old, man?
You sound surprised.
This is going to be a rough crowd tonight, y'all. Well, we are in the huddle tonight,
gray hair
right?
you see is going to be gone tomorrow by 5:15. It's going to be gone.
What are you doing by 5:15 tomorrow?
Hey,
the beauty salon.
That's exactly right. Walls, no.
I'll be there right next
You're
to you.
probably shocked to see, right? You're probably shocked to see this gray hair.
Okay,
right
so
here.
now you may have to give out the name to the beauty salon, the name and phone number.
Right.
But no, certainly discipline has played a role in your life. Talk about discipline, the importance of it.
Yeah, you know, I think, man, you know, I learned at a young age that if I did certain things and certain things would come back to me, you know what I mean? And, you know, playing 17 years in the league, you have to work out, you do what you do. Then once you retire, it's like, I don't want to have to work out, you know, but I want to do something. And you know, certainly I got a couple pounds I'm trying to lose right now, but at the same time, you know, you do enough to take care of yourself to make sure that things are right. You know what I mean? There's just no reason for me, I'm talking about myself here, for me to be walking around looking a certain way. When I know what to do, I've been trained what to do. I've done it for years. You know, it just doesn't make any sense. So I don't want to fall into that lazy category and you know, once we retire from the game, we just let it all go. That's not who I want to be. And I have a wife. Right, absolutely. And I have a wife who's not going to let that happen. I have kids who are definitely not going to let that happen because they walk by and you know, grab your stomach like, hey, that's personal business right there, brother.
You're a reflection of me. You know, it used to be we would tell them they're a reflection of us, and now they're telling us we're a reflection of them, you know. Dr. O'Brien, coming to you, you look like you know where Jim is. You've been able to find it on the map. Talk about the importance of physical health.
You know, it's always interesting to me that you know, the physical activity, physical exercise, many people don't realize how good it is for you. It's not just about, you know, I like to compete. I do bodybuilding. I enjoy going to the gym. I love, you know, get in there and just get it out, get aggressive, go in there, and then I can go about my day. But what people don't realize oftentimes is, yes, it's good for your heart. It's good for it is so good for your brain. Wow. Physical exercise is, you know, at the cellular level. It's good. Basically, you have these elements in your brain. Think of your brain as a roadway, right? And sometimes the roads get damaged. Well, you have things in your brain that help fix the roadway. Mm-hmm. Well, that exercise does that. Mm-hmm. Wow. And so exercise is so good for your heart. But it is also a wonderful venue for helping maintain your brain. It's amazing how healthy it is for you. And that's why I tell people all the time, I love going to the gym. But I do that because I want to keep this thing going as long as I can. Yeah. And so it's not just about the heart health, the brain health benefits are just, I mean, they're astounding how good it is for you.
Wow. And you heard it right here from the guy who's leading up brain research and doing a study, an extensive study in terms of brain research. So, I mean, we didn't have to tell you, but you heard it from the doctor. So you might want to take that into account. Again, apply the discipline that Tim talked about. Everson, want to now come to you. We didn't just invite you tonight because you're a Hall of Fame football player. Well, we certainly appreciate those accolades. But you are a man who has indeed maintained your health and you have aged well. Talk about what are some of the things you did to ensure that you would be able to age well.
Well, first of all, it's genetics. Let's just be real, guys. Let's start there, okay? Some of that stuff is easy. Just don't screw it up. Right. That's what a lot of it
Correct.
is. But just a product of just some wonderful parents. Of course, you know, in our family, there's always the athleticism that's there. I wasn't one of the more athletic ones. I always brag about my cousin Rick Walls. You know, people don't realize they were cousins. I mean, this guy was one of the fastest people in the world at one time. His father is also in the Garland Hall of Fame. His name was Joe Boy Walls. He and my dad were first cousins. And when you would see them meet each other, it's like they're about to get down in three-point stance, you know, all the time. I'm talking to they're 50, 60 years old at the time. Right. Like, guys, y'all too old for that crap. But they would shake hands, and it's like it's a contest, like who's going to let go first. So, but just we've been blessed with great athletes in the family. But as I grew up, I saw where, you know, when you see a big family, then you see some who are living well, some who aren't, some who have some conditions that they had to deal with because of the fact that they didn't take care of themselves. And as a kid, I noticed that. And so I'm looking at, what a great family I have. My mom has all these brothers. They're very athletic. Cato Armstrong is one of my cousins. His dad always took care of himself. And those that didn't take care of themselves, they're just not here now.
That's right.
And I hate to say that, but Uncle Oliver, we call him Uncle Dobie, but Oliver, who was Cato's dad, doing the best he can, living well. His wife's living well, still having those problems. But as I looked at them, I know what their history was, and I see where they are now. I said, I don't want to go there.
That's right.
I just don't. It looked uncomfortable. Yeah. I'm blessed. I've never had a stomach or anything, but I had some uncles, man, the stomach's way out here. And I'm like, man, it just, how it is. Yeah. You see it as a kid, and in a childish way, you're like, that don't look good.
That don't look right.
And so I knew that as a kid, and of course, being able to play ball, I'm blessed enough to make it and continue. As Tim was saying, we have to work out. I was one of those guys that I actually did work out in the off season. They didn't ask us to, if you recall.
That's right.
Now it's an all-around thing.
Right.
Back in the day, you go to training camp to get in shape.
That's right.
I was blessed enough, and I know Tim too. You can't come out there as no wide receiver, not in shape first day of training camp. So I know Tim took care of himself in the off season. I took care of myself in the off season, and thank God I did, because if you don't do that, then you're limiting yourself on how you can help others.
That's right.
You see, and I wasn't staying in shape all the time so I can throw an organ at somebody. Right. That wasn't the point. But it was the fact that I did stay in shape. I blessed a person. Yeah. I was blessed enough to bless a person. So you can't. To me, that's invaluable. Yeah. And so I used to bug my kids all the time. They were overweight growing up, and I don't judge people. I'm like, look, if you're fat, you're going to be a capable fat kid.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? You're going to do everything the little skinny kid can do.
Right.
And I'm saying, no excuses. You understand? I was slow, but I made it.
That's right.
If you're going to be fat, you still going to make it. Because I don't, we're going to work with what you got. Yes. And I've always said about my kids. They tease me to this day. They bring up some things I used to do. The relatives would come over to swim in the pool. And, I'm into this mode of, hey, man, everybody got to be good. I make them do 10 laps before they start playing. And I forgot about that. They brought that up to me. So, this is the kind of stuff that, to me, it's a culture. Right. Yeah. And now I have a nephew, went to Air Force. He played ball. All of them played ball, but he continued. He went to Air Force, played for Fisher DeBerry. Now he's flying for FedEx. Yeah. I mean, that's the kind of culture that, it wasn't just me, but that we as a family, we want to bring into it. And now my kids, it's a part of their DNA. They every day or every other day, it's all about getting that workout in and then going on, like you say, going on with your day. Yeah. And to me, they forget about the struggles that went through that, the pushback that I got. Mm-hmm. Now they're grateful for it because they look great. They're in great shape, and they're mentally in great shape as well.
Exactly.
Wow. And I think it's important for us as men to understand that, because sometimes we think they're only listening when we're speaking to them. Mm-hmm. No, they're observing you as well.
All the time. They are definitely observing.
Like you talked about.
Yeah. Well, look, my dad, like I said, he was the oldest of 10 kids, 6 boys. And if you turned them around and they weren't facing you, you literally couldn't tell them apart. They were all about 5'8", 5'9", maybe 5'10", and they all had the same round belly and flat butts, all of them. I mean,
I don't know if working out can help the butts.
Right. It was the most. It's the most now, but they had incredible legs. Yep. Very muscular legs. Wow. Right. They all look the same.
You can see the potential what they can have.
I mean, it's like, but neither one of them, for a day in their life, did they look at a track or a football field, or they just never did it. Yeah. You know what I mean? So it's really amazing, man. But I remember always saying, and look, I mean, when I knew my dad was my dad, right? When I'm 5 or 6 years old, and my dad was like 34, 35, Yeah. And I'm looking like, why is that? And why is Uncle Lee there and Uncle John and Uncle Will?
Right.
Why all of them got that? You know what I mean?
Did you question whether or not you were going to look like that?
Absolutely, I did. And that was the one thing that I was like, I'm never going to be like that. You know what I mean? So, I mean, yeah, absolutely you teaching. But, you know, if you have a kid who is paying attention and really paying attention, then what's going to happen is it's going to be like, hey, Pop, you know, because as soon as I was old enough, what did I do? Hey, Pop, we got to do something about this.
Yeah.
Right? We can't cut it off. So, but we're going to do something. We're going to make sure that you know, and for the most part, he lived till he was 75. You know, he was a smoker, you know, so since he was 14, he was smoking. So, you know, we did well to get him to 75, we think. But, you know, but yeah, I think, man, when you know, you really have to impart that on people. And sometimes it's a little uncomfortable doing that.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
I mean, let's talk about that for a second.
Yeah.
Because, you know,
Counseling, things of that nature, professional counseling, do they take that serious?
You know, I can actually say that I'm starting to notice a shift. It's kind of slow, though. It's not as fast as, you know, I would like to see it. Because normally men come to therapy once the wife drags them or they're in a situation at home that they created and they're trying to make peace. So that's when I see them, you know. But I'm starting to see an influx since mental health has been kind of in the forefront lately in the news. You start to see a lot of men are starting to come and take it a little serious. And majority, it's because I'm a man myself, so they finally got somebody they can talk to. But the problem is they're afraid of being judged. A lot of us, you know, that's why we don't come. And we've been taught to keep everything inside. So when we start coming to therapy and then we start talking about personal stuff, they kind of test me to see what am I going to do with this stuff they're telling me. They give me a little bit at a time, but once they get comfortable, they get going and they start referring out of their friends and they eventually it's turning the tide, man. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, you know, I think it's like you said before. It's when I see a man that looks like me, I feel more comfortable going in and sharing my life struggles with you because the chances are more likely that you can identify with my struggles. At least that's what I come into it thinking anyway.
Absolutely. That's exactly what it is, you know, because I was just laughing as he was talking and saying, you know, people kind of gauge you and laugh at you if you don't drink, you don't do this and that, because most of us are always kind of aware that if I really share some deep stuff, you know, about who I am, what I've done, my relationship, you know, then what is he going to say? Is he going to look at me different? So once I establish that, hey, man, we all just, man, trying to make it in this thing, man. We're learning from each other.
That mess you up, man. I know you heard some stuff that mess you up.
Oh, yeah.
Man, this brother here is crazy.
Come on, Everson, we're not going to judge him.
Yeah, exactly, right?
But you know what? So tonight we're talking about a number of things. We're talking about we as men age well. It's important that we do that. We're talking about the physical aspect. We're talking about the mental aspect. But Everson said a moment ago, it's not just important that we age well just for the sake of aging well for ourselves. It's also important that we are able to be there for others. When you age well, again, as you start to grade, then that means your mother and your parents are aging as well. Chances are your siblings are aging as well. So there is a great chance that you as a man may have to step in as a caregiver for one of your siblings or for your parents. I understand all too well what that is like. I served as a caregiver for my mom before she passed in 2015. And I can tell you, it wasn't until I started putting this together, guys, that I really started thinking about the fact that I'm grateful that that age and stage in my life I could do it. Now I'm going through some issues with my dad, and I'm grateful that I have a sister who can do it because I can't do it as much as I did for my mom. Everson, I want to come to you. Have you considered, first of all, before we get into caring for others in this whole caregiving space, have you considered who's going to care for you should you get to a stage where someone needs to care for you.
Yeah, that's why my son still lives at home with me. You have some problems, kid? Come on back, man. You just remember this. All right. Listen, remember what I did for you. But no, I've seen it as well as it go with my sister. He did it with my mother. Just so happened my sister divorced. She moved back home with my mom, and they ended up becoming really close friends, of course, as well. And so I saw what that was like about what you had to go through with your mom. And she passed of her second stroke in 2009. But you just have to, certain things that you still, as much as you want to take care of yourself and try to do the best you can do and try not to put that burden on your kids, there are certain hereditary things that we have to deal with as well. My mom she had 2 strokes. I haven't had any high blood pressure problems, but my dad had an enlarged heart. So, and when my son and I were born, we both had this weird I have this like extra beat in my heart. And the doctor's like, it's cool. It's no big deal. It's like a mole. You can look at it as a mole. And I'm not worried about it, but you could to me, I think there's a connection there. There's got to be a slight connection there to where, I think if things were to, as you get older and then you start, as you get older, the vitals, they're more important. And as you get older, they're not going to rise with you. Okay, some of them are going to stay down. There's going to be a problem there somewhere. And I have a feeling that as I get older, that's going to be a problem. I've been blessed with a strong heart. But, man, sometimes my heartbeat can go down to 38 beats a minute. And I don't even feel anything. It's okay, but just, you got that, I have that, you might have it too. They call it athlete's heart. Where it's slow, but it's strong. But one of them days, it ain't going to be strong. And it's going to be slower. So, I'm ready for that. And if that has to happen, that has to happen. But I'm going to stave it off as long as I can.
Yeah. And we laughed about the fact that your son is home and because you raise a point, we all assume that our children will be the ones to take care of us. But in some cases, that may not very well be the case. And in some cases, Doc, you could probably speak to this. In some cases, you're seeing where parents are having to take care of children due to an accident or due to their health being bad. Talk about how do you even begin to get your lifestyle in a place to where you can actually be a primary caregiver for someone?
So my mom was caregiver for both of my grandmothers. One passed of Alzheimer's, one passed of cancer before my mom passed. And so I watched firsthand what being a caregiver, the burden that it can place, but I also saw the joy that it gave and what it meant for my mom to be able to do that. And she had that capacity in that time. And that's also just the culture I grew up in. Family needs help, you take them in and you take care of them. That's just the way it is. Now what we're seeing is you get these sandwich generations, right? Where you've got, these young professionals that might be still having kids at home and are also taking care of parents. And it's such a complicated and convoluted and difficult scenario. And, how do you navigate it? How do you negotiate it? And there's wonderful people out there that help, like Miss Bailey talking about. And I don't think, in my opinion, do you really prepare ahead of time for something like that? Nah, I don't think you do. But I think what happens is you have to have it in your head. We have to know this. We have to know that, hey, you know what? My dad, hey, he's getting older. He's by himself. And, I may have to take him in. And if I do work 100 hours a week more, how am I going to do that? Well, you know what? It doesn't matter. Figure it out. And you rely on the family and you rely on your social networks. And, but I think it's one thing that we just need to be aware of. And the other thing I think super important for all you caregivers out there, it's okay to get help. You're not alone. All these caregivers have this huge guilt about, well, I can't leave Dad. I can't. My mom was, I can't leave Momo. I'm like, no, Mom, take a day. Go get that respite. It's okay to get your own help and take care of your health too. Because if you can't take care of yourself, how are you going to take care of Mom? How are you going to take care of Grandma, right? And so, any caregivers out there, that's the biggest message I can give you if you're listening. No guilt.
Yeah.
You're doing a wonderful job. You're doing a wonderful thing. But we all have to be aware of it. We all have to be thinking about it because we could all end up in that role.
Yeah. And I think for men, I think we tend to not think about it as much because we're not nurturing by nature. Right. So we typically, somebody else is going to have that. My sister's going to take care of that, whatever. But I think we have to think about it because when it comes to us, now we can admit, if something happened to Nana, they're going to be fighting over who's going to take care of Nana. Right. I'll take care of Nana. That's my Nana. That's my Nana. I'm going to take care of Nana. They'll all quit their jobs to take care of Nana. Right. Paw, I can't take any more time off my job. I'm sorry, I can't do it.
Well, Papa might not want you over. Like, look, man,
that's
you stay over there. I'm good.
So he may be under enough to do that. But Paw could find himself by himself. So I think as men, we do have to think about even beyond our spouse because our spouse is aging with us. Mm-hmm. So what's your plan should you and your spouse be aging together, Tim? I mean, who takes care of the both of you?
Yeah, I think, man, you have to be honest about who your kids are. And what they can and can't do.
That's a good point. That's a really good point.
You have to be honest about that. And my oldest son, just there's no way. Yeah. There's just no way. He's a great kid. He's a nurse at Children's Hospital here in Dallas. Great kid, great career. It wouldn't be the one, right? Yeah. My oldest daughter, she just a little scared of a whole bunch of stuff. Now my youngest daughter, if she's not the next vice president of the United States, she probably could do it. But
she'll hire somebody to do it.
Yeah. But my son, Timmy Jr., has the demeanor, you know what I mean? When he's around people, he's calming, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So I think, that role would go to him because everybody's going to say, Timmy got it. Don't worry about it. Timmy,
I hope
Timmy,
he's not listening to.
He's up in college. He can't hear this. But he may be listening.
This is on the World Wide Web.
I was about to say he may be listening. But yeah, so I think I've tried to be honest about that, and we talk. Right now you got to talk joking, right? Because you can't have that serious conversation because you freak everybody out. Right. Uh-huh. But you sort of bring things up in a joking manner, and you're right, because Timmy's over there like, don't worry, I got it. You know what I mean? Don't worry about it. Everything's gonna be good. But that's just the way it is, man. It's I think as far as my mom or my dad, when my dad was sick, I mean, we were all there to take care of. My youngest sister, she moved in to my mom is 81, and it's like she takes care of the 37-year-old, right? Because she's in that good of condition as of right now. I hope that continues. But so we don't have to worry about that. But what I do worry about is not really my mom, because that's going to be handled. Like you say, everybody's going to be in line for that. Yeah. But my sisters and my brother, I think that's going to be the real difficult thing for us. For me is, I have a sister who is 65 years old right now, you know what I mean? And then there's 63, 61, it just goes down that, who is it going to be that we're going to have to step out of line to go and take care of her, or him, So I think for me, that's what it's all about. I'm not worried about my mom because she's going to be well taken care of. I think I'm going to be well taken care of, but at the same time, and I was telling Doc this before, and I won't mention the name, but I was with a gentleman who has Alzheimer's, and watching him tell stories from years ago is great, but once he got to now, it was a repeat. He got in the cycle. And watching his wife trying to handle that, it's like Doc was just saying, you can't do this by yourself. Right. You know what I mean? And I don't want my kids I don't want to be a burden to my kids. So if I'm in a situation where, hey, if I don't know who you are, then that means you can put me wherever you want to put me. Because if I don't know who you are, then I don't know who you are. Yeah, and there's no way for you to, Daddy, you know who I am? No, I don't. I mean, if I have that situation. So, and I think, what we've talked about is if unfortunately that happens, then y'all need to go live your lives. Just make sure I'm in a good place. Through the NFL, we should be. You know what I mean? So let's just get yourself in a good place and live out your life. Right. I'll shut up after this. I have a teacher who, if not for her, the Notre Dame thing would not have happened for me. My freshman year at Woodrow Wilson, she took me and told my teachers, told my counselor, put Tim in all the AP classes, all the AP honor classes, and get him out of my class because he should be in the honors English class. And because she did that my freshman year, it put me in a position to get a scholarship in Notre Dame. Well, I check up on her every year, right? Hey, Miss, and I text her, and her husband hit me back, and he called me. He said she has full-fledged dementia. It just sort of popped up in 6 months, and he said, Tim, because I was like, oh my God, I was about to cry. He said, bro, hey man, look, she's in the happiest place she could be. I mean, every day for her is sunrise, you know what I mean?
Right.
She, and he says she doesn't know who I am. I go visit her, and she is happy as she can be. And I was like, wow. I mean, that's some context right there now to be able to look at stuff. So.
It really is. I mean, to be able to look in a situation like that in a positive way, I think that's great. Now, Tim said something that I thought was key. And Rick, I want to come to you because I guess in a way it's freeing because we don't think enough as parents when we talk about planning for this later stage of life. We typically don't think about as parents to tell our kids, you know what, if I don't know who you are, put me in a good place, let me be. Many times if we don't have these conversations, we leave the burden on our kids thinking there's no way dad would want to go to a place. There's no way he wants to stay in his house. But that's not the case. Talk about the pressure that we tend to put on ourselves as caregivers and not find that respite and things that Doc talk about, what that does to our mind.
Oh, wow. I like that question because I was going to jump in over it because I'm dealing with a lot of the sandwich generation, and normally these are people who are in their late 40s, mid 50s, 60s, we burning the candle on both ends. One of the things that Tim was talking about, there's a guilt that a lot of us deal with, excuse me, where we look at it and say, if I abandon mom, if I abandon dad, what does this say about me? Yeah. So we tend to overexert ourselves. And sometimes we feel some level of guilt within us to say, I'm not able to do a lot of things. And let's be honest, I've been a caregiver to my brother. Sometimes it's frustrating. It's exhausting. And sometimes you feel guilty for feeling exhausted and that you don't even have a life. So what it ends up doing is we are operating based on any founded reality. The real truth is I'm a human. I'm going to get burnt out. I'm going to get frustrated. It's a taxing thing. And there's a grief component to it too, because I'm sitting with mom and they can't remember who I am. That's actually painful. My grandmother had full-blown dementia, my mom's mom. She only remembered my mother, but everybody else, she didn't know who it was. So whilst we're taking care of her, we're actually grieving. Grandma don't know me. She don't remember. She's a new, different type of person. So I got all this mental stress of dealing with the heavy demands, and then I got an emotional component where I'm grieving the loss of mom who I knew and seeing the person that I know deteriorate. They're forgetting to eat. They're forgetting to even how to use the bathroom and dealing with all that stuff. So there's a lot of emotional, mental stuff going on and stressful stuff. So allowing yourself, like the doc was saying over here, allow yourself time, man, to step away, go grieve, let other people jump in and do this work, because without that, you're going to drive yourself crazy. Yeah. That's the truth, man. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So, Doc, I mean, he just raised something that I have never, ever considered. Yeah. Thankfully, before my mom passed, she never went through any sign of dementia, anything of that nature. So I've never dealt with it. Well, I've seen it up close and personal. But to talk about the fact that you're grieving for someone who's still here physically, but mentally they're gone, and I've never thought about it in that respect.
And it hits you in a different way. I remember the day I walked into my parents' house, and I was the grandbaby. I was the youngest. And my grandmother looked at me and started crying because she knew me, but she didn't know who I was. And I cried like a baby. We were so close. And you grieve losing someone while they're still with you. Yeah. And I think what Rick gets at is so important, because that's just part of it. It's normal. And if you're not, let it out. It's okay. It's okay to be upset and cry because you're watching this loved one not really be the same. It's an entirely different process than, you see someone, they pass of something, and it's different when you see it for 10 years.
Yes, yeah.
And there's a huge guilt associated with just feeling it.
Exactly.
And, I think something Rick covered also that is tied in with this that's so important that people, and I think men, we're just train wrecks at dealing with our own emotions, right? We're not good at letting it out. And then we do let it out. It's like just this, atomic bomb that no one was ready for. But one thing, just like the physical health we talked about, your mental health is so important for your brain health. They're intimately linked.
Yeah.
Being depressed makes everything worse.
Yes.
And so it's not just about taking care of your physical body. It's also taking care of that mental health is so important for our healthy aging.
Yeah.
And I think men just overlook it. We think we're going to tough it out. We'll just deal with it and move on. Instead of having these conversations, having these difficult conversations about, hey, this is something that's unpleasant, but we still have to talk about it. But that meant the physical health that I mentioned earlier about how good it is for your brain, the mental health is just as impactful.
Absolutely. Man, I mean, this is getting really good. And if you've been tracking with us, we have actually came up on the fourth quarter. I didn't announce the second, third, and fourth quarter. We're actually at our fourth quarter. Everson and Rick, before you guys came in, I talked about the fact that I'm a guy who never played sports ever, and I'm trying to do In the Huddle, and we're going to use 4 quarters.
I can listen to you all day, though.
Right. All right, cool.
Right.
That's one day for the
at least sound like I know what I'm doing.
Keep talking.
All right, so let's do this. So we're going to get into the questions. I believe Stephen had some questions up online for me to take a look at. Let's see here, because we really want to allow time for the audience to have questions. So it says, so glad to see you guys discussing this subject matter. Everson and Tim are great men who care about youth, education, and the community. They've even come to Fort Worth to inspire. Now, this is another level of helping all of us understand the importance of men's health to the family and society. Brain health is important. Thank you, doctor. We must exercise, be capable no matter what you have. Do you have a question in there for me, Stephen? Now, what happens if the medical condition has deteriorated to the extent that it is a safety issue to keep the loved one at home? Doctor.
That is so important. That whole, how many times have I had patients and families like, well, I have to take care of them. I have to take care of them. I have to take care of them. Like, and I've had, wait a minute. If you fall while helping, who benefits?
Yeah.
I mean, there are times when you have to say, I need help. Because sometimes, and especially, my grandmother was just such this tiny, tiny little lady that, my mom could help kind of get her around, but then my dad could step in and actually, get her up and move her around. But when you start, they deteriorate where they can't get up or they can't walk, or they start wandering and they're leaving the home at 3 o'clock in the morning, walking down the street. There are safety concerns that the guilt isn't worth putting yourself and your loved one at risk. And so you have to get help. And that is a wonderful point, a wonderful question.
Yeah, and I want to encourage you, if you've got a question, please chime in with your question, whether you're on Facebook, whether you're on Zoom. We want to hear from you. We're going to cut to a quick break real quick, let you hear from our sponsors again, blackalzbrainstudy.com. We're certainly thankful to be partnering with them, and they're bringing this great information to our community. Take a look at this video. We'll be right back.
First dance, but he can't remember my name. I'm his daughter.
Half of all black families are impacted by Alzheimer's, but we don't know why. At HSC, we are investing in a new research study to find solutions for your family. To join the research study, visit blackalzbrainstudy.com or call 817-735-2963.
Piano man, give him a hand.
We appreciate each and every one of them. They could be anywhere today, but they're here with us. So thank you again, guys. All right, guys, let's get into it.
You only have a certain window of time left. And the moment you understand and respect that, that should really change your perspective on everything you do.
A player's dream is having lots of women. A father's nightmare is waking up and seeing lots of women in your home and their daughters.
So then we were conditioned to believe that manhood started at a certain age, only to reach that age to find out that you're still not a man.
Sexual misconduct, a voice and a safe place so that they can be heard, seen, and believed.
People didn't approach me in any kind of way. And the reason why? Because I would get right off into them and let them understand that I will not be disrespected, nor will I be ignored.
For an in-depth look and unlimited access to all of the exclusive In the Huddle content, subscribe today for only $4.99 at inthehuddleondemand.com. All right. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you have just logged on, you're listening to In the Huddle with Chris Howell, and we've got a great number of guests here tonight. We've got Tim Brown on deck with us tonight, Hall of Fame football player, Dr. Sid O'Bryant, who's leading the research study, the blackalzbrainstudy.com. Make sure to check out the website, get information, get enrolled in the research. You may have just saw that video there. Rick Sithole, a licensed professional counselor, with us on deck tonight. Certainly glad to have him here to help us understand how to what's going on with our mind as well. And then we've got the great Everson Walls, who's joined us tonight as well, another Hall of Fame football player, a man who's aged well. We're talking about men and this next journey of our lives and how we age and age well. So it's a very important discussion. If you missed any part of it, catch the full replay over at YouTube, or you're going to be able to catch it also on the Black ALZ Brain Study website. You'll be able to see it there as well. But again, as we continue, guys, we've got some questions that have come in online. So we're going to continue to ask some questions here from our audience for the next few minutes. It says, how do you manage the cost of competent help? That's a very good point. You know, again, it's not just being able to age well so you can take care of the loved one, but it's about having the resources should you need to get the help that you talked about.
It is. And I think, health insurance plans are more commonly having things associated with this, but you have to think ahead of time to do it.
Yeah.
I mean, most people,
raise your mic up a little bit, Doc. I want to make sure they can hear you
most
good.
People don't even think about that, right?
Yeah.
And so, this is why so many people also simply rely on the family. Yeah. Because they can't afford it.
Well, that's what black folks do.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
That's true.
No, we're going to save that money.
Yeah.
We're going to save that money. Hey, when can you be there?
Schedule.
We're going to make a schedule, and this is what we're going to do. And that little money mama got, we're going to handle that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But,
mom already got it laid out for everybody.
Yeah.
It's already laid out. You get this.
But talk about that, though, Tim,
But that's
because that
not-
doesn't always
that's-
work out. Many
that's
times
exactly
families
right.
end up, girl, you're supposed to be here at 6 o'clock, and I got to be let work.
That's exactly right.
Talk
And
about
that's
that.
why, and that's why you have to have somebody professionally to come in and to be there at all times. Now, if you want to be there to help the professional, that's absolutely fine. You know what I mean? But, I thankfully, like I said, my mom is in great shape mentally, physically right now. Even got COVID a month and a half ago and walked through it like it was no problem. Thanks to Dr. Wagner, taking great care of me, taking great care of her. But so we haven't had that issue. But if we did, we've already said we're going to be there, but we're going to have professional help right there also to make sure that she gets the best care that she can get.
I think it was the key to what they said was competent help.
Yes.
Because again, even when I was taking care of my mom, I would go to try to help her to get out of a chair. Right. Me thinking, I just have the strength, just pull her up. Not understanding that there's a procedure and there's a way that you have to lift up someone so you don't hurt her or end up hurting yourself. And now your back is out of whack and you can't go to work. So again, it's having
with your legs.
So it's important, man. You got to be. Stephen, I saw another question. I want to try to get in as many as we can before we go here. What about, for instance, when they have violent episodes and become a danger to themselves and to others? Doctor, we'll deal with that one, and then we'll come back to another question that they've got there as well.
So there's a couple of things with that one. So one, you can get what's called sundowning, where just at 6 o'clock, all of a sudden they become delusional, hallucinate, and all this. That's a different thing than becoming psychotic. So if it's happening, like at 6 or 7 o'clock, there's actually things you can do, like, oh, by the way, change their sleep cycle. Make them go to bed earlier, get up earlier. If it's a medicine that makes them go to sleep, that's different. Whenever someone becomes psychotic, then you have to get the docs involved. But the problem with it is the drugs are dangerous. Most of them are black boxed, which means they cause increased risk for stroke and death. Now, all of these good docs out there, I've been part of so many. One of the neurologists I used to work with, we just had to sit down and have a discussion. All right, tell me what's going on. Well, dad's hitting mom. Dad doesn't do that. All right, we got to deal with this. I've got a drug that can help, but here's the risk. And sometimes the families will say, you know what, we need it. It's okay. And you really have to talk to your physician about that and have an open, honest discussion. There are things you can do, but they have risk. But it's a really, really dangerous scenario that has to be dealt with. You can never just let it go. I've had patients that they come in and it's like, this has been going on for 6 months. Why in the world did you hide that for? We can do something about that. There's help out there. There's help out there for almost everything you're going to run into if you ask the right question.
Yeah, and Doc, real quick, I think some people may have just joined us. Talk about how they can contact you to really be able to get the help that they need while we're talking to them.
So go to the blackalzbrainstudy.com. Go to the Institute for Translational Research. Rick right here can do a ton with these sorts of things. And the reality is this: we have to just be able to talk about it. Your doc, Dr. Wagner, you go in your primary care. Open up about it, and they will help you find the resources. The Alzheimer's Association in Fort Worth and Dallas are amazing. There's a lot of resources out there. And you know what? You can just type my name in Google. You'll find me. I couldn't hide if I wanted to. Shoot me an email. I'll help find you resources.
That is Dr. Sid O'Bryant. He's a lead researcher for the blackalzbrainstudy.com. It's blackalzbrainstudy.com. Again, you want to get the information. There's a great and an extensive research program taking place right now to really try and understand why 1 in 2 black families, that's 50% of black families, are affected by Alzheimer's, and we really don't know why. So we're really trying to work to try to understand. So that's a good deal of what we're talking about tonight. Stephen, if you have another question for me, I'll take it, and then we'll give it to the panel to answer it. Does everyone have a medical directive, medical power of attorney, HIPAA designation of guardian in case the need arise, last will and testament or trust, power of attorney, etc., while still competent to execute contracts, etc.? So again, that's a very good point. Very good point. We talked about preparing for should someone need to take care of us. Anybody want to jump in on that one?
No, I have a will, but no power of attorney. So no, this is something new for me. I don't want to end up like Prince and all these guys. They have this great estate and no will.
Yeah.
And they never took the time to make out a will, which I just think is the craziest thing in the world.
Well, I think, but so to the question, I mean, that's an important point. Now, you've got a will for your assets, but that power of attorney gives someone and you talk about it more.
It's more.
Yeah.
It's way more than that. Of all the patients I've had or Rick has had, I can promise you, we've never had someone come in and say, Doc, I want my kids to manage my medical affairs for me. I want my kids to manage my finances. I'm a true believer in you making your decisions. So if you have to do these things ahead of time, because also, like you were talking about earlier, about if you wait until something happens and then all of a sudden the family's trying to deal with it without any input from you, make your wishes known.
I just actually dealt with something like that. A family, she died very successful, no will, no directive, no children. And she had somebody who she was living with, a boyfriend. And so that's an issue now. So there's fighting over assets. And so who's going to get what? So I think it's really important to make these decisions and be clear about what you want and state it clearly and write it down how things are supposed to move, because everybody has amnesia when it comes to these things. Well, I said with Rick and they said, give me this, I said with this guy. So, my God, this is imperative because they come to me to resolve this conflict, and some of it you can't do it. Yeah.
I think it's extremely important, guys. I think that point there is, really, I guess, the cost of admission for tonight's conversation. Because I will tell you, it served me as I was taking care of my mom. It served in a great way because there were times where maybe I couldn't make the doctor's appointment with her, but because I had the power of attorney and they had it on record in their office, the doctor could call me and tell me, okay, I saw your mom today. This is what's going on with your mom today. So that power of attorney is extremely important, even more so. I'm not going to say more. It's probably even more so important than a will. Because at this point, they're still living, but they're not competent enough to be able to take care of themselves medically. And that's where you step in to be able to take care of them and give directive to the doctors. In the light of COVID and all the things that's going on, you never know when you may find yourself incapacitated just to be able to make a decision, even if it's short term.
Sure.
They will not release information. They're not going to talk to anybody unless that's in place. So it's extremely important. Anyone else have anything on that?
You know, my uncle and auntie about 2.5 months ago died within 48 hours of each other. Wow. And my mom was the executive of both of their wills, and you know, we talk about how things don't work when you have that will in place, when you have all that in place. How everything, they were mad because some of that stuff in that will they didn't like. Yeah. But it was written out. This is the way it was going to go.
Written out.
And you can go curse the grave if you want to. But you ain't cursing my mama. That's for sure.
That's right.
She ain't had nothing to do with it. But we saw how smooth, and really, I got to be honest, for the first time in a black family, I saw how smooth that really can work. You know, because I hadn't seen too many wills. I mean, I'm just saying. Yeah. Now I've been on the other side when they're like, oh yeah, well Johnny's going to get this and Susie's going to get that and everything's going to be all right. But over here, it's like you better not go over there because that's mine. You know. Right. And but
everybody
so
taking the property,
the
keys to the property out in the country.
So it definitely works, no doubt about it.
Yeah, and we just got to be thinking about that. And again, I know these are difficult conversations to have, not the sexiest topics, but it's the conversations that you've got to have. We're getting ready to approach Thanksgiving, getting ready to get to Christmas. You've got the family coming together. This is the time to start having those discussions, to ask yourself and your family, should Mama or Pawpaw develop Alzheimer's? What are we going to do as a family? How are we going to pull together as a unit? And then the next best step is to put those things in writing to make sure they're carried out in the way that you guys talk about. Doc, maybe somebody just joined us. They don't really understand how men can get involved in the Black ALZ brain study research. Talk about how they can get involved in research.
First and foremost, it's your time. We need your time. You have to show up and come in, and without getting it, like I said earlier, it's so hard to get men involved in research. And go to the webpage, blackalzbrainstudy.com, get all the information, give us your time, please. And you know, I actually, most people that I've met who have come through it, they actually really enjoy it. It's not like some horrible experience. Most people really enjoy it, and we give back anything and everything that's used clinically. We give it back. So you get a ton out of being part of this research, but more important than that, you're helping us figure out how to do something about it. Yeah. You know, this isn't about me, whether or not I get it. It's about my kids reading about it in a textbook and it used to be a bad thing. Yeah. You know, that's my goal, is my kids don't face it at the rate that I do.
Yeah. Help me to understand this. As best I understand it, in this particular research, there's no blood drawn. There's nothing of that nature. It's really just understanding your behaviors. Is that the case?
No.
Oh.
You wish.
It sounded good.
Help me.
It sounded good, but
help me.
So
let's clear that up. See, again, we don't want to put out bad information.
Absolutely. This is the single most comprehensive study of Alzheimer's disease in history among diverse populations. Plain and simple. It's never been done. And to do that, we do a ton. So you undergo a medical exam. We do clinical labs. So we do a blood draw. We do testing of memory and thinking. We do brain scans. Okay. And so you do an MRI, 2 PET scans. And so, I mean, it's a lot. We ask a lot of our participants. And that's why I plea for people to get involved, because it does take a lot of your time. Mm-hmm. But what I tell people all the time is, hey, you get a free MRI, because my research, we pay for a clinical read of an MRI. Well, I don't use a clinical read. That has nothing to do with the research. We use research stuff. We pay for a clinical read so your doctor can have it if you want him to. Right. The clinical labs, I have a lab who could do them, but I don't. Quest does those labs so that I can give them back to your doctor. And so everything we do, if it's used clinically, it comes back to you and back to your loved ones, however you want it. And you own that. That's the other thing. So if you want to have this information come back to yourself only, it comes back to you only. You want it to go to you and your doc, goes to you and your doc. You own that. And so it does take a lot. I'm not going to pretend that it doesn't. However, this is a complicated disease. And it's the most comprehensive study for a reason. And the thing that I think is important, it's not just about the biology, right? We're studying all these biological components. It's all within the context of sociocultural factors. That's what's so different about what we're doing. We're not trying to study this piece and that piece and this piece. I want to know the biology in the context of where you live. I want to know it in the context of what your medical conditions are. I want to know in the context of whether or not you have depression. And so it is very robust, and there's so many things, because Alzheimer's disease is not this just one thing and you've got the disease. It's just so complicated, and you can have so many different things that lead you down to that road. But that, you know, I tell people all the time, to me, the complexity of Alzheimer's disease is the key to beating it.
Yeah.
You know, we all took the toys apart when we were kids to see how they, right?
Yeah.
Well, that's what you do. You tease it apart and we understand it better. And I can tell you right now, without getting the African American community involved in this study, I can't help.
Yeah.
I mean, this is me begging you, please. I can't help patients. I can't help your loved ones. I can't help your mother, your father, your grandfather if you don't get involved. Yeah. And this is like I said, this is something you should be proud of. I mean, people from all over the world are asking us for this data. I speak everywhere about it, and this is in your backyard. You, this community, you are changing the world.
Yeah, yeah. And when you talk about 1 in 2 black families, if the numbers hold true there, that's 50% of black families will experience Alzheimer's in some form or fashion, whether it's mama or papa or someone in the family is going to have it. Right. And if that's the case, and we still can't understand why it's as complex as you talk about, getting involved in the research helps us to decrease the complexity of it, to try and understand at least why did they get it.
Yes.
And if they get it, is there anything we can do to help treat it?
Right.
Other than just sitting and watch them die.
And once we learn the why, now I've got something I can go after.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Once I understand why did you get it, or you get it, or you get it, or you get it, and every one of you may have been a different why, but as soon as I know the why, all right, now I got something I can go after, and I can try and do something about it.
I like it. I like it. Stephen, do you have any more questions? If so, we'll take a question. If not, we'll keep the conversation going. Again, this has been a great conversation, guys. If you missed any part, I want you to go back and check out the complete conversation. But Everson, I want to come back to what you talked about a moment ago. Again, we're teaching our kids one way or another what to do or what not to do. When we talk about this Alzheimer's thing and it being affecting 50% of black families, what comes to mind when you hear that?
You know, I've been blessed. I haven't really had to deal with that much at all. Even like I said, my grandmother was 104. And it wasn't that she couldn't remember anything; she just couldn't hear. So she just sit in the corner and just look and laugh at everybody. But no, we've definitely been blessed with that. And you touched on the depression and things of that nature. That's something that, if I can toot my own horn, me and Tim work with our Ethos Education Group, and we've been working with student athletes that have been having problems during the pandemic. And so I don't know if you guys have brought it up here yet, but I mean, that puts a whole nother variable into the whole thing. This X factor of COVID, because you've got people who are depressed and mentally, and then they start to overeat. Next thing you know, physically, people are having problems, and you're shut in the house for over a year, and you don't even know how to get out. You can get out of there physically. You can get out of the house, but now you've taken on these habits that you got to shake now. It's been months, and I've been doing the same thing over and over again, not all the time productive. Now, if it's a productive thing, that's great.
Yeah.
Then you can carry that on. But most of us are not. Yeah. It's just the way it is. If we do have something we can lean on in a positive standpoint, then you've also got something that is probably weighing us down from another standpoint. So I've been trying to balance that. But once again, me and Tim, we're blessed. We got great families. We got wives. We can always reach out. We got people, there are tentacles that we can follow. Yeah. But I know for a fact, everybody does not have that for the most part. Most people don't have it.
Yeah.
And it's something that's an X factor when it comes to our health, mentally and physically. And I like I said, I don't think I've heard anybody say anything about it today, or you guys might have brought it up before I came. But that's something that's a whole nother factor we have to deal with.
You're absolutely right. But you said something I want to talk about. And Rick, maybe this comes to you. We talk. Everson talked about the fact that I think most of us are married, and we've got that. Not only are you have that wife or that spouse who's coaching you to say, hey, get in shape. I want you to get in shape. Yeah. But you've got an incentive to be in shape because again, you want to be there for your spouse.
Right.
Yeah.
To that man who's single, talk to him and how does he get that motivation that we don't have, that he doesn't have with having the spouse or somebody there to encourage him along?
And this is one of the hardest thing, self-motivation, right?
Yeah, man.
Because you got to want it for yourself, For you guys who are athletes, this comes naturally to you. But to some guys, this is something that you have to work hard to do for yourself, It's one of those things you have to decide. And I don't think in our community we've done a lot to encourage people just to self-motivate and take care of their health. Yeah. And we don't really hear a lot about the importance of taking care of yourself. So this is something that you have to decide as an individual that I'm aging, whether I like it or not. I need to work hard to maintain my health. I need to go to doctor's visits and understand what these numbers are. And we talk a lot about self-care. And I think this is the biggest act of self-care and self-love, just to do that. If you can start there, and besides, if you're single, you're going to want a partner sooner or later, right? Mm-hmm. So you got to look good.
You got to show up in the room.
Yeah, you got to show up, man.
Well, guys, as we prepare to land this plane, Tim, I want to come to you. If you had it to do all over again, what would it be, and what would you need in order to do it?
I tell you what, man, I don't know if I would have done much differently. Yeah. I think the only thing that I probably would have done differently is it took me a while before I decided that I didn't know the way, and I probably should be, following my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, instead of trying to do it all myself. Probably would have saved myself a few headaches by doing that. But I think if I had anything to do over, I would. I say that, but those years that led me to that were so powerful, because I think, as an athlete, if you try and do anything cold turkey, it just doesn't work. Yeah. It doesn't work. And that for sure, being a young man in L.A., playing good football. Yeah. Eddie Murphy told me one time.
Good football.
Well, Eddie Murphy told me you don't have to be good looking. Right. Say, hey, if you getting out of a Porsche, you're gonna be all right. And I was driving a Porsche, and so, so it was. There were temptations there that when I got away from them, I was able to strengthen other men. Because by the time I left the league, I was old enough to be people's daddy. I was almost 39 years old. So. At that particular point. So all those times that, all those years I wasn't doing, I was able to use those in a very positive way, but yeah, I think, man, look, I've been so blessed, healthy, from a health standpoint, from family, from, football or whatever. It's just hard to say, oh, well, I would like to do this over. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you got a Heisman Trophy. You got the what else you got? Come on, man.
Hall of Fame.
Hall of Fame, number one pick.
If you want to name them, okay. But
got Cerise Brown, married a good wife, good kids.
That was the best. Let me tell you that story real quick. The brother who introduced me to her, he passed away at 42 years old. He passed away. Wow. But when he was trying to introduce me to her, I wasn't ready, right? But he kept telling me she lived in the same apartment complex as him. Mm-hmm. And he told me, he came in one morning and said, I met your wife last night.
Dang. Oh, wow. That's crazy.
And it took almost I'm going to cut this story down. It took almost a year and a half. At his wedding, I met her. And I said, man, this girl, Sharice, he grabbed me. He's 6'6", 200, 350 pounds. He grabbed me. Boy, that's a girl I've been trying to get you with. But I wasn't ready.
A year and a half.
A year and a half. But it took me that year and a half to get ready. So,
but he knew that was your wife the day that he met her. Wow.
He knew better than you.
That's right.
Yeah. Everson, I want to now come to you. I mean, if you had it to do all over again, what would you do differently, and what would you need in order to do it?
Tim said it right. I mean, you can't question your path. You just can't. You started to, and then you backtrack because your path is what made you what you are now. Yeah. So I really wouldn't change anything. I think I would have wanted to, of course, be a better person. I want to be less selfish. I know that, when we started making that money, back in the 80s, man, I just went crazy. Yeah. I mean, let's just be real. I shored up some things, but at the same time, I always felt it should be about, okay, let me live over here. Boy, I got to take care of this over here. Yeah. But so that balance don't work. Yeah. No, you got to take care of business, period. It's like if you're going to study for a game, if you're getting ready for a game, you're preparing for a game. You don't half prepare for a game. Yeah. You got to go all the way in. And I think that's something that I do regret because it wasn't about the money. It was all about the ego. And my ego was out there strong because I had come from no disrespect to Tim. I wish I could have had it like Tim to where they realized his potential and he realized his potential at an early age. I did not. So I kept trying to catch up. And you ain't gonna never catch up. Yeah. And so to me, trying to catch up on so many things, trying to prove so many things to people that I didn't have to prove anything to them. Yeah. It did feel good to shove a few things in their faces, but it was unnecessary. It shouldn't have happened, and it was a detriment to me when it was all said and done.
Wow. You just said a lot there. I mean, it really helped a lot of us. Yeah. I don't want to belabor the show. Rick.
Same question. I was thinking as he was talking, and I agree with both of them, it's hard to change something because everything leads you to where you are. But what I would have changed different, I would have believed in myself a whole lot sooner because, when you work with people and care for people, it's something that's not cool when you're younger, So I went to Wall Street. I worked, for 12 years, trying to create this image because I watched the movie Wall Street when I was younger and I wanted to be that banker and all that. But it led me in different places, people I shouldn't have been hanging with. But you know what? It gave me great business acumen and it introduced me to different aspects of life. But, just that. I wish I believed in myself and accepted and knew that there was nothing wrong with me. Yeah. That I was fine the way that I was. That's the only thing I would change.
Yeah. But you think about that. I mean, you going through that process and now today you're helping people to discover who they are and to be the best version of themselves. I mean, so I guess in a sense it all comes full circle.
Absolutely. Because I feel like, I'm Dorothy. I know the way home now. Yeah. So I'm leading people the way back home because been there. That's the thing that some of my greatest work, that's it, helping people become themselves and being okay with who they are. Yeah. So I know how it feels.
Yeah, and absolutely. And I didn't read Rick's bio when he came, but I want you to know this brother has a stellar firm out there in Frisco.
Yes.
In Frisco, Inside Fitness. Again, he's got a number of physicians and counselors who work underneath him. He's got an entire team out there. Inside Fitness, I mean, it's all things licensed professional counselors as well as coaching. If you need anything along that line, whether it's like professional counseling or coaching, Rick Sithole, I mean, again, great practice. The title of it is Inside Fitness. The name of the company is Inside Fitness. Doc, want to now come to you as we talk about closing this thing out and talk about if you had the opportunity to do anything differently, what would it be and what would you need in order to do it?
I'm sitting in the room with some amazing gentlemen. And, what they've made me think about is, we all look back on things we've done wrong. And I think what's important for people listening, especially young men, it's important to believe in yourself. You need to remember that just because someone stands in front of you and says you cannot do something doesn't mean you can't. I'm just this Cajun boy who was told you can't recruit and do research with African-American communities and Alzheimer's or Hispanic communities for that matter. And, really? Why? Why is that? Yeah. I'm first generation college graduate. I didn't have role models that went to college. Yeah. It's important to believe in yourself, especially young men. Believe in yourself. Find those role models. Find those people that see your worth, right? Find that teacher who's willing to not only just tell you what you want, but to tell you what you need. And, you know, listen. And, you know, I think this journey for me is far from over. And, you know, in terms of my own path, I won't rest until we've beat this disease. And, you know, I hope all of you listening will join me on this journey, because it's a wonderful journey. It's a difficult journey, and we have a long way to go. But with your help, I really believe we can beat it. And so, you know, I'm so grateful to have been here with all of you. Gentlemen, this is amazing.
We're honored to have you here. We're honored to have you here. Thank you for not accepting no as the answer, but you forged ahead to do this research, because it is a very important research. You know, we need to get answers to why we are impacted most by this disease, and in fact, how do we treat this disease? Because it's, you know, when you see Pawpaw and Nana sitting over there in a chair and don't know who they are, don't know who's around them, that's not a comfortable feeling.
Not acceptable.
So we've got to be able to get to the bottom of that. I don't want to be the guy who asked the question and never answered the question. So I will say, I guess for me, if I had to do all over again, I guess I would like to have learned the importance of good health earlier. I've always thought that I would just be young and slim and fit all of my life, so never understood the importance of working out or walking. I've always looked like a football player, but never played football a day in my life, just, again, lifting the fork and spoon. So if I had to do all over, it would be, again, I understand it now, and I'm getting there, and I enjoy walking now more than I ever have, but I will tell you, I wish I had learned that a little bit sooner. So it's not, you just said it right, it's never too late. It's never too late. I'm on that path now. It's Journey with Chris. I invite you to join the journey with me, and together we get to this whole fitness model. It's been a great conversation tonight. I hope you've enjoyed it. Again, I want to invite you to go back and check out the entire conversation. You go to blackalzbrainstudy.com. That's the website that you can check it out. You can also check it out on my website, or go to inthehuddle.info. We have all the resources available there for you as well. I also want to invite you tomorrow night, Wednesday, 7 p.m. tomorrow night. We'll be right here with another conversation. It's Get COVID Clear. We're going to be talking about the COVID vaccine and all the myths and misinformation that's surrounding that. We'll host that conversation tonight with folks from the city of Arlington. So we're going to try to educate you as much as we can.
Right? We're all on board.
Oh, yeah. Please.
A lot of work for Rick. We don't have one board.
Absolutely, man. It's so we're excited about that. I mean, again, it's been a great conversation. Anybody want to say anything before we close out?
No.
Thank you.
All hearts and minds are clear. The benediction has been done. We're out of here. Thank you for being in the huddle.
All right.
He can tell you about their first dance, but he can't remember my name. I'm his daughter.
Half of all black families are impacted by Alzheimer's, but we don't know why. At HSC, we are investing in a new research study to find solutions for your family. To join the research study, visit blackalzbrainstudy.com or call 817-735-2963.